Hey everybody, ReefGrrl here and welcome to my channel. This is Reef Wrap-Up number 17. A lot of things have happened since the last update, and this will fill you in on how things are coming together in the new tank. It's been a long, slow process moving my reef from the basement sump into this display tank, and it's still not done. This little clip shows what it looks like when the daylight comes into the tank in the late afternoon. These mushrooms in the observation tank are constantly letting go of the rock, so now I try and intercept them before they actually let go and confine them to a container where they can attach to something. Back upstairs, this encrusting Montipora that didn't encrust is only here temporarily, well, or so I thought. Within minutes of me just leaning it up against a barnacle, the female angelfish moved right in. I bought this coral as a quote-unquote unknown species about a 3/4 inch frag maybe 5 years ago. It turns out I'm pretty sure it's a Jason Fox freak hair. Whether it's a Pavona or a Lithophyllon, the jury's still out. I don't really know. In any case, when it's in high flow and low light, check it out. Those little freaky hairs get really long. And this thing has a couple of what kind of look like, I don't know, mouths or eyes. So I'm going to keep an eye on this because it's going to be interesting to see what happens with it as it gets bigger. It's already starting to encrust onto the sand out the back. You can't see it from this angle. And here's some long tentacle plate coral action for your enjoyment. This is Heliofungia actiniformis, or as I like to call it, poor man's torch. It is beautiful. I've been playing around with the lighting, trying to find something that works in real life and for video, and I think I'm slowly getting there. I've also been messing around with the flow, trying to get something that gives really good surface action and thus gas exchange, and also is the right kind of flow for the corals. I have a lot of corals that require lower flow, and it can be really hard to situate those properly in the tank when there's a lot going on like there is right here, right now. Look at this guy. I think that's an empty snail shell. I hope so. A few more decorative touches added. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. However, I have a couple more things up my sleeve, all in good time. Well, I'll say a sad goodbye to the Scolie. Had this coral for at least 6 years, possibly 7. And it's distressing, to say the least, that this happens at this point in time. But I guess I've enjoyed it while I've had it, and I'm not sure how or why this is happening. It's probably something I've done. And yeah, so thanks for all the memories, Mr. Scolie. Yeah, she is loaded with eggs. See if I can get a side shot if she moves. Look at that. Fish food. I was lucky enough to find a non-Wi-Fi Jabo SLW30, and I picked up this little beast to address kind of a dead spot here at the front of the tank. Here it is installed. The flow is really ripping now. You can see the haze in the water, and I believe that is from particulates that have been kicked up by this thing since we started it about 10 minutes ago. Definitely, there is a better ripple at the front glass. So, cross my fingers, hope this solves the problem. Back downstairs in the observation tank, I have several encrusting Montipora frags, 3 pieces that are red and this green one. So I think it's time to try a little experiment. I'm going to glue them all on the same rock, butted right up against each other. I'll scrape the edges of each frag so that it's kind of open skin where they touch, and I'll see if they kind of grow together. I'll keep you posted. So for a long time, the magnesium in my tank tests was declining, and I had to swap out the container for Tech M because it was growing a whole bunch of nasty. I should have kept it and taken a video. I don't know, I'll have to check. Maybe I did and I just don't remember. It's not just that the stuff was growing black goop. I also discovered the tubing was completely blocked with crystals. So effectively, the reason my magnesium levels were slowly declining is that they were not being topped up. And in retrospect, that's a good thing, because the stuff that was growing in there was really gross. So I swapped it out for the Kent Tech M, set it up with a different hose, and my last test, the magnesium level was 1354, which is much better. So we'll see what it is next time. I may have to back off the dose a little bit. So this is the reason why you need to check your actual dosing tubes often. The observation tank turns out to be the perfect place for one tiny angelfish and all the frags I've been gradually collecting while moving corals. A lot of these are accidental frags, but you know, they're doing well, along with the angelfish. Super low phosphate in the system, 0.019, so skimming dry. Got some nice crispy foam in here, and this is a couple days worth of skimming. By skimming dry, I can maintain the aeration that I get from this while not taking too much out of the water in the way of organics. The pH right now is 8.08, 8.09 in that area, so I want to do my best to maintain that. And if I shut the skimmer off, I'm pretty sure it's going to drop. Well, what have we here? We have an urchin holding on to a crab. I'm going to have to try and get him off of there. I don't know how long he's been on there, but yeah, it's not a good scene. So I'm going to try and do this while I get the camera rolling. I have done this before. Alright, we'll just get this. Just try and pry him off. Try and put a bit of pressure. There we go. I'm rotating the pipette just to try and irritate the urchin. Let's see if we can let him. There we go. Oh. I don't usually like to interfere with what the urchin's doing because I don't know if any of what I just did is going to hurt him. I'm hoping not. He's still fluffy and he's moving on. Still messing around with the lighting. It turned out that some of the corals along the front of the tank were reacting badly to the extra light I had given them when I adjusted the lighting program. I changed the programming on the front Atlantic panel so that it only runs at 50% on one channel, which is mainly blue. Hopefully this will help the coral and also allow me to film without having to use filters. Very relieved to say that all this is a molt from the shrimp. Okay, I didn't realize until I was looking at older footage how much this thing has filled in. There used to be a lot of spaces between these mushrooms, but not anymore. I mean, look at it from this side. Completely filled up. So beautiful. Today is June the 7th, about a month after I did the chemiclean treatment, and the nasty is back. It's worst in the front. There's a little bit at the back, but not a lot. So we're gonna try some of this Live Rock Enhance and just see what it does, if anything. I don't feel as bad about this as I did the first time around because I know that I can use chemiclean if I need to. So I'm not going to do that right now. And in fact, this coming back is probably my fault because I underdosed the chemiclean, never having used it before. I didn't want to have a problem if it went wrong somehow. So if I need to use it again, I will, but I will dose the amount for 600 gallons. And not 450 like I did before. So back to this. We're gonna try this and see how it works. The directions say for larger systems to use 1 teaspoon per 100 gallons. So 6 teaspoons it is. This is about 1 cup of tank water, and I think it should have been more, but I guess we'll find out later. So I'm just kind of mixing it around to break up the clumps as well as I can. According to the directions, you're supposed to let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes. So that's what we'll do, and then come back later and put it in the tank. Front. Look at that. Yep, cloudy. Just put in the Live Rock Enhance and turning the bubbles on to make sure there's lots of oxygen in here given the whole load of bacteria that I just dumped in. So here's the front of the tank immediately after putting the dose of Live Rock Enhance in. It's 4:45 p.m. and I'll try and get video every day or every other day at the same time of day so I can assess any progress. Here we are, Wednesday, June the 8th at 4:45 p.m. The water's a little bit cloudy. Could look that way partly because the glass needs cleaning, but here's the stuff on the sand. And here is June the 9th at roughly 4:45 p.m. The Live Rock Enhance treatment is supposed to be every other day for a week. However, because I have 600 gallons of water and I only bought 1 jar of the stuff, I can only do 1 more treatment, and that would be today. A little later, and the second dose of the Live Rock Enhance gets put in. So this was upside down on the sand this morning, and I turned it the right way, and I'm so happy to see it's coming out again. I will have to remount it where it was up here. Back to the front of the tank video, here is June the 12th. There is a noticeable difference along the front of the tank. However, it seems to look worse down the sides than it was before. But I have to say, overall, things are looking pretty good. I see a general improvement and the rocks are starting to look really nice. Here's how things look on June the 13th. And this is June the 15th. So after the second dose, things improved for maybe 2 days, and since then, they've kind of been stuck. No change, nothing different, still stuff on the sand, not as bad as when I started, but it's still there. So I can't help but wonder whether if I actually did the treatment the way I'm supposed to, i.e. every other day for a week, whether it would make a difference. So I'm going to wait a month, see what happens, and I may do this again. I'm pretty impressed with the stuff. Well, I kind of neglected all of the frags in this tank a little bit, and I ended up losing a few, but I had duplicates of most of what I lost. So I just kind of reorganized them on a couple of new frag racks, cleaned everything up, and did a couple of good water changes. So things are back to normal, and the little angelfish is doing really well. The skimmer went a little nuts during the live rock enhanced treatment, so I made some adjustments, and I'm keeping an eye on it with the Wise Cam. Here's what I see around midnight when I turn the light on over the sink in the alcove. It's just enough light to show where the clownfish live, and also the maze brain garden. Usually by this time the tentacles are out and waving. When I see this, I go to the fridge and get a bottle of either arctopods or packpods, something with really tiny pieces, tiny plankton. Mix it with some tank water and dose the tank, because everything here looks hungry. It's not just here, it's the candy canes, the favias, all kinds of other stuff has tentacles out at this time of night. I finally summoned up the nerve to move the long tentacle plate coral from the right side of the tank to the left side. It's sitting on a clay disc because apparently that's the safest for them in order to prevent contact with the sand that might cause a bacterial infection if there's any damage. So my husband helped me. We very carefully lifted it up using a couple of spatulas and moved it over. It seems to love its new home. It is doing just as well as before. Before, the tentacles were kind of tickling the fox coral, and I don't think it liked it very much. But here, it's closer to the front, and there's much less chance that it's going to sting anything. And it's a lot easier to see in this spot. I decided to go back to my roots, back to a C-Chem product. When I first started dosing in 2015, I used the carbonate and the calcium and the magnesium. Now there's Fusion 1 and 2 available, which essentially are calcium and magnesium in Fusion 1 plus some trace elements, which I like, and Fusion 2 is the alkalinity portion. We'll see how this goes, but I'm expecting just as good results now as I had 7 years ago. I've set it up to dose 40 milliliters a day in 5 separate doses for each element. I'll wait a week and then test to see if the dose needs any adjustment. 10 a.m. view. The lights come on in stages. In the interest of keeping this a reasonable length, I'm going to stop there. That was around, June the 20th. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, why not give it a thumbs up? And if you haven't already subscribed, think about subscribing to my channel. There's a lot more going on, and this isn't anywhere close to being done yet. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, everybody.